My name is Nawaf, and I'm the co-founder of With Me Nutrition. I'm Lebanese by nationality, and I've been living in Romania for the past few years, and I have over 16 years of experience in the health and wellness space. My background is in the fitness, nutrition, and performance, both from formal education and honestly a lot of real-life experience. I've studied sports nutrition, strength training, and human performance, also biochemistry and physiology by Harvard. But more importantly, I've worked with hundreds of people one-on-one. So my education didn't stop in books. It continued in the kitchen, gym, labs, and real-life conversation with people who struggled. Before With Me Nutrition, I was coaching full-time, strength training, nutrition, lifestyle optimization. I worked with athletes, busy professionals, business leaders, high performers, people dealing with stress, burnout, sleeping problems, hormonal issues, and many more. What I noticed very quickly is that people don't fail because they don't know what to do. They fail because their nervous system is overloaded with stress, anxiety, poor sleep, chronic stress, and no recovery. The insight changed everything from there. With Me Nutrition started when I realized that knowing what to do is very different from being able to do it. I remember one of my clients in particular, he had 3 kids, a lot of responsibility. One child was often sick. Nights were fragmented. His stress levels was always high. He wanted to feel better, move without pain, have energy, play with the kids, be present. And we were doing the right thing, training, nutrition, also improving his habits. Like with many of my clients, I was advising him to improve his sleep hygiene. I told him, try to relax before bedtime, limit screen time, don't overload your mind with news, try to read, breathe, meditate, all of the things that help you wind down. All of that is good advice, but implementing it was one of his challenges. But the reality is, because of his chaotic schedule, being under high stress, having all of these responsibilities, I think when he was giving his body the command to relax, it wasn't possible for him to do that. So it's not an issue of him, it's an issue of like willpower. In this case, it's more of an issue of biology. So his sleep schedule was inconsistent. So sometimes he slept late and woke up too early because of the kids, and that disrupted his overall circadian rhythm, and that eventually affects your REM and deep sleep on the long run. Deep sleep is when your body is physically recovering, muscles, immune system, inflammation, hormones. REM sleep is when your brain recover, your memory, emotional processing, stress regulation, learning. If you don't reach those stages continuously, you wake up tired even if you spend 8 hours in bed. I started seeing this pattern not just with him, but with many of my clients, and honestly, with myself as well. On nights when we don't sleep well, we're more reactive, less patient, we make worse decisions, and we tolerate stress poorly. I tried recommending to some of my clients a lot of supplements that helped improve the quality of their sleep, but unfortunately, nobody wants to take a fistful of pills before bedtime, and that by itself was a hassle to plan the pills and every night to be consistent in taking them regularly. So I started looking deeper for a real solution. I studied the US market, European, UK, and Australian market. Most products rely on sedation, melatonin, valerian, passion flower. They knock you out to sleep rather than they help you relax your central nervous system, help you relax your body, and actually have the ability to fall asleep and have a consistent, smooth sleep throughout the night. Most of those ingredients just sedated you to sleep, knocked you out. We spent over 2 years researching the market, studying clinical data, testing ingredients, and working closely with technologists and leading professionals in the field, and refining and validating the formula. We went into research, double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, ingredients that had been tested for decades. I tested them individually on myself and my wife. We paid attention not just to falling asleep, but also to have an overall smooth, consistent sleep throughout the night, which helped us in the morning have this clarity, improved mood, and being able to tolerate stress a lot better throughout the day. And this is what helped us shape the formula early on. Eventually, we created our own samples and gave them to clients, people with insomnia, chronic stress, some even on antidepressants. not as replacement, but as a nervous system support. And we started seeing something different. Calmer evenings, deeper sleep, better mornings. It took almost 2 years of testing, adjusting, removing ingredients that didn't feel right, like magnesium threonate, which can be stimulating at night for some people. And the science behind it is basically magnesium threonate can cross the blood-brain barrier, which basically could seep into the brain. And for some people, it might cause vivid dreams. And personally, with my wife, when she was taking high doses, she was actually experiencing vivid dreams, which can be disturbing at some point, and you might not have that consistent sleep throughout the night. And that's why we swapped it with magnesium bisglycinate. That's how Sleep With Me was born. Not as a sedative, but as a tool to help the nervous system relax enough to do what's already designed to do, recover deeper, both in the body and the brain. I think one of the biggest problems that we encountered, I think what we didn't encounter. One of the biggest challenges, and honestly one of the most important ones, was production. When you put a supplement together, especially one that claims to support something as fundamental as sleep and the nervous system, who you work with matters just as much what you put inside. A lot of the manufacturers today are simply supplement manufacturers. On paper, they look perfect, FDA claims, certification, nice website. But if you actually visit some of these facilities, you start to question the real quality behind the labels. For us, that wasn't acceptable, in terms of what we've seen of other factories. And that's when we wanted to work with a manufacturer that doesn't just produce supplements, but actually produces medication, pharmaceutical grade, and had a pharmaceutical grade facility. That means strict controlled sourcing and access to pharmaceutical grade raw material. This was especially important because some of the ingredients we use, like reishi and certain medical mushrooms, aren't just wellness trends. They're used therapeutically, even in clinical context, for immune support, inflammation, and overall health. So the challenge became to find someone who's reliable, someone that we could trust, but with sourcing real active ingredients that actually do what the science says. Every ingredient we selected, we asked for third-party testing, even when it increased the cost, even when it slowed down the process. We wanted to prove that what's written on papers is exactly what's inside of the product. This is a little bit funny for me because by nature I'm a little bit skeptical when it comes to ingredients. And honestly, I was like, it took us some time because I had this skepticism. That was a weakness, I would say, but also in the same, it was a strength. It slowed us down and didn't move as fast as we wanted, but also it protected the ingredient integrity of the product, but it also protected the integrity of the product. This is also because I wanted, when someone takes Sleep With Me, I wanted them to know that the effects that they feel is real, not placebo, not marketing. And that's exactly what happened. Many users felt the effects within the first 2 to 3 days, or the first 2 to 3 uses. Calmer evenings, deeper sleep, better mornings, and better overall mood. And that for me meant everything. But that meant, with all of these delays and, not cutting corners and all of the effort that we invested in, making sure that the ingredients are active and getting that third-party testing, eventually, led us to have instant feedback from our clients, even from the samples. Like at that stage, we didn't yet produce the product, and people were, testing, just taking the samples, and they were feeling the effects, and we were like, wow, this is like, it was worth it. Of course, my wife was like challenging, like speed this up a little bit, when I get there. But me, I'm like, the skepticism was, I wouldn't say necessarily it's bad, but I think it helps you question more. And I think also by questioning more, I wouldn't have looked probably into the resourcing and the third-party testing. I would have just said, okay, it's a manufacturer. They have all of these certifications. Yeah, let's just go with the flow and that's it, lock me in. I have to, I'm laughing because I remember during that time, it was like really crazy for us, a crazy period because it was combination of, trying to put the product together and the variables that come into the product. Everything that I said earlier, like the ingredients and, finding the right manufacturer. Then we were working with we were trying to work with the technologists, because when you're putting a formula together, you want also technologists to look into the formula. So I was trying to do that way, also, doing my full-time coaching. And here's another thing, is that I still didn't have the product at that time. So basically I was buying individual ingredients, right? And I was like, taking them because I wanted the effects of my product on me. It was, I think really sleep have helped me a lot with being able to tolerate a lot more stress overall and being able to pull this off, let's say. And going back to what you said, that, what kept me going, at the beginning, when we started and we were handing over people's samples, they will instantly, like in the first 3 nights, I would get feedback, and I'm telling you, 97% of the consumers were getting back with positive effects. I would say there was this 3% that they needed longer period, like up to 2 weeks or maybe 30 days. But that was everybody tried the samples, telling us, oh, it's great. And then we had a lot of people that was also giving us feedback that's working for them. But I think one of the stories that was really interesting for me, I had a psychiatrist. She was, I think, a psychiatrist, kids psychiatrist. And she got some samples for me. And then after that, she tried them for the first week. And on those days, we were chatting with each other and, exchanging some messages. She used to work for the UNIFIL, as far as I remember. And she told me, Nawaf, I'm waking up, I have better mood. I'm feeling great. I'm going to the gym and so on. She was like 68 or something. So also the age, knowing that also it's helping elderly improve their sleep. And, there's also a category of elderly that they have trouble sleeping. As you get older, a lot of people have difficulty producing melatonin. So the supplement itself helps, increase their melatonin level, the natural production of melatonin in your body. So she got back to me and she told me like, hey, if it works great, I want to get a box. So, she got a box, and every time I saw her at the gym, and she was like, I'm feeling great and so on. And after 30 days, I checked in with her. She said, Nawaf, I completely stopped my sleeping pills. So she was taking sleeping pills to fall asleep. And she was taking also antidepressants, and she reduced almost 70% of her antidepressants, and she stopped taking the sleeping pill completely. And now she's telling me and I remember her words, she said, more people need to know about this. And that, helps, fuels that, I want to keep going, and I want to reach more people in my personal work, in one-on-one, in coaching, in strength training, nutrition. I found pleasure in, when people come back to me and tell me like, hey, I'm feeling more energetic, stronger. I'm, feeling more confident. Some people having, because I'm also doing exercise therapy, some people come back to me and tell me like, hey, this pain is away, and since we work together. So all of this feedback was fueling me, but I think the moment when I switched to the supplement, I'm talking about much more larger scale of reaching more people with the supplement. And even if it's a small thing, and the reason I focused on sleep is because sleep almost is fixing 60% of your problems. If you don't sleep well, you can just imagine your day, You're not gonna probably you're not gonna hit the gym, you're not probably gonna, forget about the gym. If the product is not just focusing on improving your ability to go to the gym, but rather, to tolerate stress, to be a better partner, to show up for your family, to show up at work, to get the things that you want to get done, right? Achieve the goals, because that's the first thing you want to do is for yourself, for you to feel good, for you to have this emotional ability to take in, what life will throw at you, the chaos, the stress, the anxiety, and still keep going. Right? So I think that's one of the things that sleep have helped me personally in this journey up until now. But for the past year now, I'm taking this on a daily basis, and it's the only supplement I'm taking. And I think it's a huge impact on everybody that I encountered that tried it so far. But I want to be very clear: Sleep With Me is not a replacement for medication. It's not a treatment, but it's a holistic approach to improving the quality of your sleep. Also, in her case, it made a lot of sense because the mechanism of antidepressants is that it locks serotonin in your system. So it doesn't help your body produce more serotonin, it just locks their serotonin in, and that's how you'd feel better. But what the sleep supplement actually does, it helps you produce more serotonin, improves your neurotransmitters, your dopamine, and that improves overall your mood. So that made sense for her to reduce her medication of antidepressants and also, reduce her dependency on sleeping pills. When you sleep better, your brain chemistry works better, your hormones regulate better, and also your stress response becomes calmer. And talking about this slide, this is not only, I haven't seen this only in we've had some extreme cases. I had some clients who had insomnia. I had people who were dealing with burnout. I had some people that were actually, they were alcoholics. They went and did therapy. Then it was just as they finished therapy and they got on the product, and the product helped them, really cooperate with the fact that they're not actually indulging on alcohol anymore. And we have normal cases where people who just have the day-to-day stress, the normal, let's say, lack of hours of sleep, the inconsistent hours of sleep, to extreme cases such as insomnia, depression, and so on. So this showed me it's helping both spectrums, and not necessarily only people who worked out or were active, but everybody. Whether you're at an office job, no matter what you did, it improved your overall sleep and mood and resilience on the long run. Another example is actually myself. So of course, trying to do all of this and trying to be conscious of getting in enough calories during the day so I can be able to achieve more things. Stress can really wreck your appetite. You're not conscious of how you consume food. You have emotional eaters, and that's a real thing. So when we stress, our fight or flight goes on, and therefore your ghrelin or your hunger hormone fades away. And it makes sense, because right now a lion will just jump at us here, and we'll just freak out, and we run, and even if you were hungry, you'll forget about your hunger. That's what flight to flight does to your body. So some people deal with this emotional state by eating, and that increases their serotonin, which helps them feel better. So having your central nervous system and your serotonin levels and your dopamine levels regulated and sleeping well can lead to a better appetite, and on both ends, either whether you're struggling with eating during the day or struggling with actually overeating, you're going to have a much better overall appetite, and you're going to be more mindful of what you eat. So in a sense, emotional eating is not a discipline problem, but it's more like a nervous system problem. You're trying to cope with the daily stressors. It also makes some sense if you have a long day, you didn't eat anything, you get home and you just overeat on hyper palatable foods, stuff that are very tasty. And usually most of the times these are calorically dense, and you end up eating those donuts, the chips, and easily, you're just putting in another 1,000 calories. And I'm talking from perspective right now, aside from sleep. When I have clients that, they're not emotionally well regulated, they might be prone to these issues. And being prone to those, I'm actually working, when I started telling them to take sleep, it was not just for them to have better sleep, but to have a better overall outcome of the program that they were actually signing up in the first place to get with me, right? So they're trying to lose, let's say, X amount of weight, or maybe they're trying to get in a certain body composition. All of this is intertwined and connected overall. When people sleep better, they eat better, they train better, they handle stress a lot better, they make better decisions. So sleep can have, I can't, overstress, how sleep could lead to an extremely better overall life. I think genuinely, a lot of people, and this is a challenge for us, with our product, is that, a huge portion of what we're doing right now is education. And people end up blaming themselves, and habits and so on, and the habits are the reasons. But if you're sleeping better, right, and if you're waking up feeling refreshed, you have the energy, you're stronger than the habit. You can take a decision, your decision is stronger than the habit itself. So the more you accumulate better sleep, it's like you're on a streak, you basically are able to take down this, bad habit that is, hurting you, just by improving that one thing. So some of the key benefits of, or breakdown of sleep with me. It has over 10,000 milligrams of clinically studied ingredients at clinical dosing. So it's also important for the product for the dosing to be clinically proven, meaning if I would take 600 milligrams of ashwagandha, it might have reverse effects on me. It might not end up helping me go to sleep. It might agitate me and so on. And I'll tell you also another story. We had a client of mine. She was like about 50 kilos, 50, 55. And she took one whole sachet of the product. She didn't feel sleepy before bedtime. She got a little bit energized, but it makes sense because also your body size or body weight matters. That means it's like more dosing for your overall body. Also, this is another thing that we do, and we're proactively doing that. Whenever someone purchases our product or gets our product, we do follow up. We ask them like, how did you sleep? And if we get feedback like, this, we suggest. And we always, we did a lot of educational content. When you buy the product, start with half a sachet, see how it is, and then from there, you can go out to a full sachet. But this type of education, you see other supplement brands just take the daily recommended dose and that's it, That idea of dosing is not communicated through their material. So you feel like, okay, when you say it's clinically studied or reliant on science, where's the dosing part? Kind of makes sense, right? So what happens in your body and brain during a good night's sleep is sleep is when your nervous system recalibrates or calms down and dials back a little bit. It's when neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, GABA are balanced. It's when inflammation goes down, hormones regulate, and the brain clears out stress signals from the day. One of the key ingredients is glycine, and glycine is an amino acid that we get from food, but often not optimal amounts. It helps reduce central nervous system activity. It also helps reduce core body temperature and also improve GABA levels in your brain. Another important ingredient that we have in the formula is magnesium bisglycinate, which basically helps your muscles relax. It also helps your central nervous system relax. And also, this is something that I said earlier, too much magnesium could lead into you having more brain activation. So that's why we also have opted for a dosing that supports a good night's sleep. Ashwagandha is another ingredient that we have in our formula, and a lot of people know about ashwagandha. Here's another thing about the supplement. We communicate across our social media is that a simple example, ashwagandha. Ashwagandha has 3 benefits. It reduces your cortisol level, yes, but also it increases testosterone levels, and it's also a strong antioxidant. So it's a 3-in-1 benefit that we have in the product. And also the mechanism behind, how ashwagandha works, it's reducing your cortisol. Therefore, when your cortisol is lower before bedtime, you're able to you're able to fall asleep because of the high levels of adenosine. But then when you sleep, you're able to have a consistent sleep throughout the night because your cortisol levels are high. But if your cortisol levels are high, you will fall asleep because your adenosine levels are high because you're tired. But then later on, you will wake up as soon as the adenosine drop down again, and you will wake up again because your cortisol levels were high. So ashwagandha helps you reduce those cortisol levels. And aside from that, the fact that it has strong antioxidant properties, it helps you reduce oxidative stress. Let's say, for example, you wake up in the morning and you just eat breakfast and you go for a run. You would run 4 hours, 5 hours, right? Halfway through the day, if you go back home and you sit on the couch, you'll fall asleep. But you accumulated already a lot of adenosine, so you accumulated a lot of adenosine, and then basically you will just crash. But then because you're midday and in the back of your head, it's daytime, you would wake up again. That's why people who wake up during the day and they take naps during the day. I'm not saying naps are not good, they're good, but if you take naps, you would notice that later on you would wake up and you'd feel like you still wake up because your subconscious knows it's not yet nighttime and you could comfortably stay throughout the night. Another thing is that also I advise, and it's for part of sleep hygiene. When you wake up during the night, don't look at your phone. Don't look at the time, because your subconscious says it's 2 hours more until I wake up, 3 hours more until I wake up. So it's you're programming your brain, 3 hours from now I'm gonna wake up. So I better, you stress yourself because you go oh shit, I need to sleep. And some people go into an anxiety mode and then, just sleep goes away. Another key ingredient in the formula is Griffonia simplicifolia, which is 5-HTP. It's a precursor to serotonin. And what serotonin does in your body is that serotonin converts into melatonin, and basically you have the sleeping hormone. But here we're supporting a natural process rather than synthetically giving melatonin. And here's another thing about melatonin. Most of the people take 5 grams. Let's say not 5 grams. 2 grams or 1 gram is still a lot. Your body needs less than 1 gram of melatonin to fall asleep. And people are like taking 1-2 milligrams. And that amount of melatonin, some people have bad metabolization of melatonin. So they end up, remaining with that melatonin until morning or prolongs in their body. And that's why they feel sluggish in the morning. So that's why it's better to support your natural production of melatonin rather than taking it synthetically. Because on the long run, also you're depleting the mechanism of producing it naturally. So griffonia or 5-HTP. Also, there was talks or studies or, some papers that I read that, in the European Union, they wanted to remove or ban the 5-HTP. You know why? Because it was actually improving the serotonin levels. So what does that affect? What are antidepressants? Antidepressants are just locking in the serotonin in your system, but the 5-HTP increases the serotonin production. So therefore, if you have problems with your mood, then your serotonin levels are low. This is producing more serotonin in your system. And it's making you feel better. So why would I go buy the medication? There was talks also to reduce, so before you can take purity of 100% 5-HTP, now you can't. You can buy only 30%, legally in the EU, you need to register only 30% like 5-HTP, so let's say 100 grams of griffonia. 30% of that griffonia will give you 5-HTP, so 30% of that will be the 5-HTP, not 100%. You can't have 100% 5-HTP. But I believe that there is maybe a deeper, you're stepping on some toes, let's put it this way. And then we have ingredients like zinc, B vitamins, B6, 12, and active folate. These are helping your body synthesize naturally melatonin in your body. So it supports the natural production of melatonin. Also, they have the other benefits of, but small doses of B vitamins. This is also important because a lot of people associate B vitamins by energy and taking them in the daytime, but those, just enough doses just to support the cycle for producing melatonin and also keeping your central nervous system slightly active and not for you to have this strong sedation or strong heaviness of the product, right? Zinc also is another important ingredient for all of us, for hair, for bones, for nails, for males and for females. Another key ingredient we have, and is very interesting, tart cherry. So tart cherry, NBA players take tart cherry to reduce inflammation. So after their basketball match, they mix with their Gatorade some tart cherry to reduce their inflammation, and it also helps fight oxidative stress. It also has a very, very, very low doses of natural melatonin. Natural melatonin, cherry juice. So if you probably have eaten sour cherries specifically, sour cherries. So cherry season in Romania, maybe some nice cherries before bedtime can really help. Chamomile, another super, I can't express how much it has a lot of properties. It's full of flavonoids. Apigenin is one of them, and apigenin works on reducing the neural excitability, and it dials it back. This is one of its properties. Chamomile also is a very strong antioxidant. But here's the thing, when people use chamomile, and like they drink chamomile tea, extract is totally different than tea. You put a tea bag, you're maybe getting like 10 milligrams, which is nothing. So you don't feel that much effect. So that's why I say if you want to use extracts are very safe, because eventually what they did is that they extracted the chamomile properties through maybe submerging it in water and then maybe dehydrating it and so on, not to lose its integrity. But yeah, if you want to drink chamomile tea and really feel some nice effects, it's very advisable to put a decent amount of tea bags inside, maybe like 3-4, to get like a really good kick of chamomile. So when all of these ingredients eventually, you consume them, they work in harmony together to help you reduce your central nervous system, reduce your cortisol, help your muscles relax, reduce neurotransmitter excitability. It also helps the synthesis of melatonin. So eventually you have a 360 approach to improving your overall, sleep. So you get your REM sleep, you get your deep sleep, and for more deep, REM and deep, if you're sleeping 5 hours and you're getting more of REM and deep, you can still wake up and feel you're up and running. You have people who would sleep like 10 hours, 9 hours on a weekend, and you still feel like, oh my God, I didn't sleep enough. I feel still tired. That could be because of a backlash, right? Because you have built sleep debt. That could be potential. But also at the same time, it's because you spent a lot of time in light and awake time. You didn't spend a lot of time in deeper REM sleep. So deep, if you spend more hours of REM and deep, you can wake up the next day and actually be able to take on the day. The idea here is not that you're improving just your sleep, or think about it like, you have a very stressful month. You need to meet a lot of deadlines. You have family, you have responsibilities, but you have like 6 hours to sleep, 5 hours. What do you do? This is helping you get the most out of your sleep in that short amount of time. And saying that, I'm not advising people to undersleep or to sleep less, but unfortunately our modern life requires a lot more from us than sometimes we can give it. So the product actually helps you. That's what supplementation is. Supplementing so you can achieve is not something permanent that you do, but it's something that you do for a short period of time for you to get by, for you to achieve that next goal, for you to achieve more and more, right? You're giving your body what it needs to get there. So our future plans, the vision is much bigger than one product. We're expanding into a full ecosystem, sleep, focus, stress resilience, stuff for gut, hormonal balance, a bit of teasers, maybe, testosterone booster, hormonal balance for women, because we have a lot of clients that, deal with polycystic ovary syndrome. That's a whole story. And another, story, now that we talked about, mentioned hormonal imbalance. Actually, we had a lot of clients of us that had polycystic ovary syndrome or inconsistent or discontinued period, right? Menstrual cycle. When they take sleep, it starts to come back again, or their hormones regulate again. But not because you're regulating the dopamine, serotonin, and so on. But there's another thing. We have an ingredient inside of the product which is myoinositol. Myoinositol helps improves the binding of insulin to the tissues. And the problem with polycystic ovary syndrome is that basically your body produces a lot of insulin, and when your insulin becomes high, your body produces it because, okay, you're eating glucose now, you're eating carbohydrates. Glucose is in your bloodstream. The glucose is not going into the tissues. So the body says, okay, we still have a lot of glucose in the blood. Let's release more insulin. So the insulin is not binding well. Myoinositol, which is a B8 vitamin, it helps bind the insulin to bind to the tissues to allow the glucose in. Now, when that problem in women occur, then their FSH and their LH hormones go out of balance, therefore affecting their testosterone levels, therefore affecting the overall period. So basically, the polycystic ovary syndrome, it's a cyst, it's an egg that doesn't mature. So basically, the period is like this. The egg matures, doesn't get fertilized, and the period comes. But when the egg doesn't get mature, doesn't get fertilized, the egg stays there, the period doesn't come. So you see how insulin could lead to hormonal imbalance. And basically the product, we included this, and we've seen how much, women, they have, felt improved overall hormonal balance, better menstrual cycle, less cramps, and so on. So we start. And here's another thing is we started with sleep because 60% of the problems are, because of sleep, right? So if you fix sleep, you fix the 60%, and on we're going. Another one we're really focused on next is for gut. Gut. My wife is more she read more about this area, but I'll tell you, imagine your gut is where everything goes in, and sometimes if you have issues like leaky gut and digestive problems, you probably wouldn't absorb the nutrients from your supplement and forget about the supplements, you wouldn't absorb it from food. So basically people tell you I'm eating a lot of nutrient dense foods, but I don't see the effects on me. I'm taking the B vitamin, but I don't see the effects. I'm taking the B complex, but I don't see it. Chances are that you have problems with your gut. Your gut is not functioning properly. So this is another thing that we want to work on, fixing the gut, because I personally had, this is one of my stories. So when I used to eat tomatoes, like tomato sauce or, oily food, I'll get a lot of acidity. But since I started taking some, it's a combination that, we're prebiotics, digestive enzymes, and so on. And also alcohol. So, if I would drink a little bit of any alcohol, I'll immediately have stomach acidity. Since I started taking these products for about a month, no problems whatsoever. I like that one thing I think also we want to do a detox product. This is also coming up. Detox product because it's funny. I have an allergy to cats. So allergies are your body's inability to process toxins. Now, your body can store toxins in fat tissues. So the more, and here's another thing, that's why obesity could lead to death, right? Because obesity, basically your body has more storages for toxins, and therefore you're more likely to have cancer and so on and all of these issues. So losing body fat can help you, yes indeed, reduce the chances, and that's why, you know, sports is very important, and, you know, eating better and exercising and moving more can be very helpful. But also at the same time, toxins can be stored even if you're thin. So me, myself, I have histaminic reactions, and when I was taking supplements like berberine, glutathione, which are very strong antioxidants, the toxins were getting released from where they're stored in my body. They will enter my system. My body doesn't have the ability to process them all at once. So I get overloaded, or my body gets overwhelmed. I start to get difficulty breathing, and I feel heat all over my face, so all over my lips, my ears, and basically my body is just like, the toxins are in my system and they're in the bloodstream, and my body's not able to clear them out. So we started experimenting. I was taking some liver nutrients to help my liver clear out the toxins, and some active charcoal, so to absorb those toxins into your digestive tract, you know, and yeah, so I was, after, you know, doing that also, I think I did that for about a month. I was staying with cats, no allergies, no shortness of breath. So it's amazing how things that we think that they're allergies, gluten intolerant, lactose intolerant, what it is. If you take lactase, which is an enzyme that breaks down lactose, you don't have any bloating and issues, right? Same thing with fiber. Why do we have tolerance towards some people, they tell you they eat broccoli or so on. Anything that you cut for long periods of time, your body will not have the enzymes or the microbiomes that helps break it down. So when you eat it again, you reintroduce it again, your body has a reaction like, I don't have sufficient material or the material to break it down or to co-op with what you're giving me now. So that's why, you know, supplements can come in and be very handy and helpful, you know, in order for you, especially in our modern life, you know, we're not having diversity, we're busy, we're always on the run. It's improving the quality of our life. Not we're eating pills, but it's just simply, you know, we're evolving. So geographically, we're in Europe now. We're shipping worldwide at the moment, but we want to expand on a bigger scale, right, to work more with clinics, more gyms globally, professional athletes, professional, you know, doctors, yeah, and, you know, like, be everywhere and reach people and actually just give back something really that works and explain the science behind it, educate the people about this. Not trying to just words, not marketing, real solutions. I see products on the market, and whenever, you know, we're like looking right now at other products, it's like I can easily spot quality from inequality in something that's non-quality. And this is my mission, is, you know, the next steps is to educate more people about this, talk more about ingredients, explain more, guide them more in what I'm not saying that and also another thing, our product, like, you know, if you want to go and grab this individually as ingredients, it'll cost you way more than actually getting one of those. Just think about it like this, you know, it's very easy for you to take an ingredient, but it will cost you more to take the packaging and so on. All of that, you know, just like we're saving a lot, and we're trying to create something that you can have it in one use, convenience. Convenience equals consistency. So With Me Nutrition long-term plans is about helping people build a better overall life that can handle modern life. PS, if you dig enough, you'll become an expert. And this is a personal story that I learned from this project, and up until now in my journey is that at the early stages when I started my project, I met with a lot of technologists, and, you know, they were saying something like, this is your area of expertise, let us do our work. And most of the times when I see their advice, that advice basically wasn't connecting or comparing their answers to the research, they did not connect. And this left me with that I digged enough that I became better than an expert. And what this taught me is that in any sector or any domain in life, if you learn a lot about it, you don't need to go to a university. Experience, reading, information is all out there. You take that information and then you implement it. That's your experience. And you combine those together, then you have real life sensible results. And that's what we did with our sleeping product.